Well, comes the weekend, comes Michael Snyder. We don't mean that in any salacious manner, as I'm trying to get the words out today. So let's go out to the left coast and find out what's happening in movies this week. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Alex. Greetings from Cali. We got a few films on the old docket. Let's roll right into them. Well, you know, I'm not a big fan of Pixar's animated undersea father-son comedy adventure, Finding Nemo. I wasn't crazy about it. Maybe it was the design of the fish. Maybe it was just a little too cute for me. But it was beautifully animated, and it's certainly a better film than any of those horrible Cars films with those scary anthropomorphic automobiles. I've never been able to get behind those. And in fact, I'm hoping that Cars 3 features Mater, the tow truck, voiced by Larry the Cable Guy, crushed in one of those junkyard machines that squishes. I would like to see that with him screaming, but that's another story. Finally, the long-awaited sequel to Finding Nemo is here. It's called Finding Dory, and it is actually very sweet and again, beautifully animated. Their skills at computer animated movies obviously increasing exponentially with every release, and Finding Dory is a beautiful vision of what the life could be like under the ocean if you're a weird cartoon fish and that fish's attendant friends. So this movie centers on the lovably forgetful blue tang fish Dory, voiced by Ellen DeGeneres. And again, I'm not a big fan of Ellen DeGeneres, but she's great in this. And Albert Brooks is back as the father of the father-son fish duo. I guess Albert Brooks' name is Marlin. He's got his kid Nemo with him, and they're all sort of a de facto family. But in fact, Dory had been separated from her own parents and decides she's going to find them, even though she has this short-term memory loss problem. And it's funny, and it's poignant, and they have good voice work by Ed O'Neill, Caitlin Olsen, Diane Keaton, and Eugene Levy are the voices of Dory's parents, so she does find them. And more on the heavy side, you have Idris Elba and also Dominic West. So top-notch vocalizing and a beautiful piece of work. And I had the option to see the movie in 2D or in 3D, and I chose 3D because it was an IMAX showing, and as we've discussed, the strong candle power of an IMAX projector makes it a little easier to see 3D films, particularly ones that are made in 3D. And when they're dark settings like under the ocean, do you really want to see something that's sort of fuzzy and murky?
It's funny
No.
You should find that a problem. I've never found that a problem in 3D films.
Well, I really think
maybe you're going to the wrong theaters or reading the wrong opinions.
Well, maybe we all have an opinion, and I'm going to a lot of different theaters. But when I see a conversion from 2D to 3D, it's usually going to be a dimmer image, and you've got the glasses serving as filters, so the brighter the projection, the better. So I'm suggesting if you're going to go see a movie in 3D, make it one that was made specifically for 3D, and also at an IMAX.
Well, if you're going to wait for pictures specifically made in 3D, the only thing you're going to be seeing are cartoons for the most part.
Well, all right. Well, okay then. Anyway, moving on, Central Intelligence is a movie teaming Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Kevin Hart. It's an espionage-themed action comedy from the director of the hilarious Dodgeball, a guy by the cumbersome name of Rawson Marshall Thurber. Ike Barinholtz was one of the writers of this thing. He was on Mad TV. And, you know, maybe my hopes were up because I loved Dodgeball. But this kind of left me a little on the meh side. Anyway, Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson. It co-stars Aaron Paul and Amy Ryan, who are pretty top-notch, and a few other surprises are in here, including Jason Bateman, and a cameo I won't reveal in case you want to be surprised. And it's occasionally funny. I like espionage, I like action, and I like comedy, and I laugh now and again. But you could watch this thing on video if it sounds like your thing. Hart, who I don't love, but who was a less offensive comic and much better actor than his shrill motormouth doppelganger Chris Tucker, plays Calvin, a former high school golden boy, most likely to succeed, marries his sweetheart, but now he's stuck in a dull dead-end job as an accountant. Johnson plays Bob, the former fat kid who was bullied in high school and is now a super buff CIA agent who may or may not be a traitor, but appears to be fixated on the one guy who was kind to him in high school, Calvin. So Bob shows up out of nowhere, and suddenly he and Calvin are on the run from the CIA and various assassins due to some world-threatening stolen tech. So that's it in a nutshell. It was okay. I mean, I wish I loved it more. On the other hand, it was better than it might have been. It could have been excruciating, and thankfully it wasn't. Nice to see Amy Ryan as a hard-as-nails CIA agent, Aaron Paul as the former partner to Bob. These guys are pretty talented, and from that alone, I figured, all right, I'll give it a shot, and it wasn't terrible. That's right. Central Intelligence, not terrible. There's the review. Tickled is a new documentary, and a friend of mine has a hard time watching movies and TV shows that make her what she calls uncomfy. And with that in mind, I would never suggest that she watch Tickled. As for the rest of you, check out this wild mix of bizarre exhibitionism and exploitation and unsettling mystery. This is a Sundance sensation at the festival, and a provocative investigation that concerns a reporter who's looking into a freaky competitive endurance tickling video online, and in doing so uncovers a strange subculture and empire and also criminal activity. This guy who comes from down under, a man named David Farrier, is also the co-director of this, and it's some shocking stuff. And he and his cameraman find themselves in the middle of things, and they're like rebuffed, turned away. They run into all these dead ends. They feel threatened. I mean, again, this is not a movie that's going to make you feel at ease if you see it. The feeling you get when someone tickles you? Well, this is much worse, I think. But I thought it was a very, very cool movie. I recommend Tickled. Bang Gang, subtitled A Modern Love Story, is a fantastic and sexy and very disturbing coming-of-age ensemble drama from France that follows the escapades of a group of well-to-do teenagers who organize a series of what could only be called recreational orgies at one of their numbers plush homes when his parents are away for an extended getaway. So first, love and jealousy start creating conflict between friends, and then things really spin out of control when word gets out about the orgies to the community. People are humiliated, freaked out. They're constantly rationalizing circumstances. They're, shamed in a big way. And the young actors in the cast are good looking for the most part, which I guess you'd expect. But what's most impressive is that their passions and arrogance and vulnerability, desire, and shame seem real. Written and directed by a woman named Eva Husson, I thought this was first rate. And as George, who's a pretty teenage girl in the middle of all this, who actually is in love with one of the kids and wants to get close to him, Marilyn Lima is a breakout. She is really, really wonderful. Pretty great stuff all the way around. I recommend Bang Gang. Yeah, subtitles. Yeah, so what? Good stuff. Finally, Last Cab to Darwin. This is an impressive character study and kind of de facto travelogue from Australia about a lonely aging cab driver, played by Michael Caton, who lives in a quiet mining town and decides to go on a personal odyssey when he learns that his life is slipping away and he needs a way to die with dignity. His only recourse is a doctor in Darwin, which is 3,000 kilometers away from his hometown, so he starts driving. Beautifully shot, beautifully acted, starring Aussie character actor Caton and Jackie Weaver, familiar to Americans through her various appearances in American movies, and also she was the star of the original The Animal Kingdom film from Australia that was the model for the new TV series. Anyway, she plays the doctor who will help him die on his own terms. But, it's the getting there. It's the journey that it's all about. And I thought Last Cab to Darwin was wonderful and moving and sweet. written and co-written and directed by Jeremy Sims. Good stuff.
Okay, good. Sounds
And that's that.
yeah. For this week, I guess a couple of recommendations. Well, one is a recommendation, and one is a check it out. You might enjoy it. The thing you've absolutely got to watch is O.J. Simpson Made in America, the 5-part documentary on ESPN. If you have ESPN's app for the Roku or for the Apple TV, you can actually watch them all right now and binge. They're still running them on ESPN, but it is one of the best documentaries I've seen in years. It is just compelling.
And it's about more than just OJ's story, from what I understand.
Yeah, it deals with racism as well, but racism is important to why he won his case. So, you know, it's a whole kind of look at the L.A. Police Department and their way of handling blacks in their communities for years, and that this was kind of a comeuppance for them. OJ getting away with murder, so to speak. And it's just, the whole thing is just, it's 5 episodes of an hour and a half or more each, and yet you don't get fatigued by the whole thing. And you see the trial in a very microscopic way. And there are scenes of the dead bodies and so on that I've never seen anywhere before. I mean, they're just gruesome. So I warn you about that. And
what's amazing about this is there has been so much focus on him, what with the miniseries and now this thing, and this is a little deeper than just telling the story of O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, it is a little more than telling the story of O.J. Simpson, and it's an amazing document. That's all I have to say. The other thing I was going to recommend is a show on AMC that I started watching, and I don't know where it's going exactly, but it's interesting, and it's called Feed the Beast, and it stars Schwimmer. What's his name?
David Schwimmer from Friends.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a foodie thing. It really is about these two guys that want to create a restaurant, but it's got the mob involved, and it's got cocaine and dysfunctional people, and it's just, you know, when you see something you never saw before, it's kind of interesting to see it. You know,
it's funny. It's gotten mixed reviews, so I haven't watched yet. But on your recommendation, I'll take a look.
Well, it's worth giving a try. You might like it, you might not like it. You know. But it's interesting nonetheless. Well, I guess that's about it, huh?
Yeah, I think so. Just in terms of what we're talking about this week. So let's roll. You can check me out on Twitter at Culture Blaster, and on Facebook, Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page. Like it, check into it, and check back with us here next week.
Okay. Thank you very much, Michael. And we'll see you again next week. In the meantime, the rest of you, there's more GABNet coming right up.